Here is a flaw that I see with many entrepreneurs who are seeking to build narrative power for their business. First of all, I'd like to remind you of what I mean by narrative power. Narrative power is the leadership ability to defy the normal when the normal is wrong. It's a change management exercise. It is about transformation, and transformation requires a lot of energy from you as a leader, from the marketing activities that you implement, from the sales activities you implement, and also all of the operational work that you do. So I see the flaw that consists of actually losing track of the balance between narrative power building activities and the day-to-day business. So let me unpack and explain and give you some pointers about how to avoid that flaw. So first of all, what do I see? And why do I mean this? We are, as entrepreneurs, we are very oftentimes creative. We're scrappy. We're problem solvers. Any curious endeavor, any new challenge will typically spark our curiosity. Will have our attention. We are always on the hunt for something better, and it's easy for us to find ourselves spending a lot of time developing things like a new website or new publications, or really thinking deep about our future positioning, or on the internal and team area of our business, really spending time trying to build a cohesive team. Yeah, it's very important. I don't undermine this activity, but we can really get carried away through planning and agile planning and being more productive and working on our own mindset and our own inner narrative and doing meditation on that. So all of these activities take a lot of time, and they can sidetrack us from the work that we do, and most importantly, from selling the work that we do. So to illustrate my point, I'd like to share with you my framework, a visual that now you've probably seen before if you've watched my videos. This is the strategic narrative canvas. And what I mean by this is that typically, all of these areas all of these practices here in the 4 disciplines, all of these are activities, they are things, they are tasks that will require a certain number of energy, a certain amount of energy. And I say this because a few years ago, what occurred to me, what happened to me is that I was really into positioning MetaHelm differently, embarking on a writing journey that took me to publish every single day, 7 days a week, for over a year. That was a lot of energy, and I lost track of important things like revenue generating activities, directly revenue generating activities like selling, like reaching out to potential clients. So I had to catch up. I did catch up eventually, but it was a lot of stress and a lot of energy. And yeah, it had an impact, possibly a negative impact on MetaHelm. I can trace it back. Now I learned to balance that out, and it's a temptation. It's a pattern that I see with many of my clients. One of them I talked to, in fact, yesterday in one of my coaching program session on Expert on a Mission, my coaching program. We're talking about all of the things he's doing as far as his new website is concerned. So he's doing fantastic research and strategy work to reposition his business, to really understand the needs of his clients. So very, very thoughtful, very authentic outreach, great alignment with new potential clients in a new niche that he's been focusing on. But meanwhile, he's lost track of his pipeline, his sales pipeline, right? So if you don't have a sales pipeline, by the way, you need something to track your sales pipeline. I'm sure you do have a CRM or customer relationship management software, or even a basic Excel spreadsheet, right? Well, okay, let's assume you have that. Well, keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. So this particular client actually kind of got carried away with all this research work, with all of the narrative building activities that will eventually really give enormous amount of clout, of respect to his firm on the market, because they are all things that people will notice he will eventually, and he's starting and really has done some amazing work to differentiate his business with a different perspective. He's been building an assessment tool, a new website, some new service offerings. All of that is very much energy consuming. And meanwhile, he still needs to pay the bills, needs to pay his employees and to pay himself and have peace of mind financially. And that's a small business. But it can happen also in large organizations when there are too many projects that are in flight, and we get a little bit blurred by all of those internal projects, external projects, and we don't keep our eyes on the gauges, on the sales gauges, on the revenue gauges. So what balance should you strike, and how do we strike that balance? Well, if you are in need of immediate revenue, and which is what happened to me after I had spent a whole year really like doing ample infrastructure work to build the narrative power of MetaHelm. Now it's achieved. So the balance was really 80 to 90% narrative power building activities. I had a handful of really stable clients, so I was safe, I was fine, but I could have kept a little more leeway. I could have built a little more margin in my sales pipeline. So I was really 80-20, that was imbalanced. But I also the great thing, and which is something I will never regret, is that I was fully focused on developing a brand, on developing a positioning, an identity for MetaHelm that is clear, that is concise, that is strong and sustainable, and something that will live for a very, very, very long time. So that was a big investment, right? But now, and after that, I had to catch up. So I had to rebalance. And so I moved it slowly to 60-40, then 50-50, and eventually a lot of sales activity. Okay. Throughout this video, you may have the impression that I'm only talking about narrative building activities. Don't forget, I also had to deliver the work, right? So I was also very busy on my projects, doing coaching work with clients, launching and delivering workshops and courses that I had sold, right? So I'm talking about that extra layer of work that you see. Again, I'm going to flash it at you here in my diagram, right? I'm talking about what is happening here around delivering the services and the product. So that's where I was very, very heavily focused on what was happening inside the organization. Very focused on marketing too, but very, very little focus on the authentic selling piece of the diagram right here, of the framework. So over time, I rebalanced, I corrected the course, and now I have a good system in place. So which leads me to tell you a bit about what system you could put in place to strike really that balance. So the first of all maybe is a mindset piece, is to always keep in mind that building narrative power is never, ever done, but it is always due. It is due next month when you launch a new service. It is due next week when you show up in a sales call. It is due right now when you need to hire someone or reconfigure some of your processes. It's always due, but it's a process that takes a long, long time. It's never, ever done. You can always find new ideas to build your ability to change things inside your organizations or outside your organizations. So that's the mindset piece. So very, very practically speaking, what does it mean? It means that narrative power building is a process, not a project. Okay, maybe you think about this process as a series of phases or projects put together, but it's a process. It's something that is ongoing, that is repetitive, that is iterative. So keep that in mind. So the good news is that since you know now that it's kind of an ongoing process, you understand that you can always course correct, do a little more one week, a little less next week, and so on, right? The second thing I would do is, like I said before, really implement a very disciplined habit of looking at your sales activities and scheduling time. Scheduling time every day if you need it, to look at your sales pipeline and to do authentic outreach, to send a series of emails, to contact clients on your ideal client list, not as a desperate vendors, right? Still keep in mind, to my metaphor, I have another video with that metaphor, send those email just like the lighthouse would shine a bright light to signal its presence. So sending your emails has to sound like that, signaling that you're here, that you can do some work, that you can provide value, but always reserving yourself the opportunity to decide who you want to have a conversation with, right? So that's another topic of discussion here, but basically that's another piece of mindset too. And tracking your time and dedicating the time relentlessly, frequently, without any excuse to skip it, right? On my calendar, I have a blue bar every day to do that work. That includes reaching out, but also following up with people who may have sent me a request for services a long time ago, finding out about new companies that I would be interested and excited to work with, thinking about new services, thinking about new offers, and always in the mindset of signaling my presence, finding opportunities to collaborate with others. So really like generating sales and revenue generating activities on a regular basis. So I hope this helps you. I hope you don't fall into this trap. I hope you watch for this flaw, which consists of stopping everything basically and just focusing on building the infrastructure for narrative power building, right? A lot of communication, a lot of thinking, a lot of research, reading one more book, taking one more class, doing one more talk, one more video. No, do it bit by bit. Drip a little bit of it every day and balance it out with your sales activity. I hope this helps. I hope this gets you to avoid any financial stress. I hope this gets you to not tap into your savings or create too much debt or feel bad about how you could have managed your money differently. You can be an excellent money manager while still developing narrative power, balancing it out, and creating a firm that is really thriving, because not only it's a source of inspiration, it's a great source of impact, creating change for your clients, for your community, for the way your industry works, but also a firm that is steadily generating money and continuing to exist because money is the fuel to business. All right, I hope this helps. As always, I welcome your questions. I welcome your comments. And yeah, go look for that video where I talk about the metaphor of the lighthouse. I think it's a great metaphor. I personally like it a lot. Almost all of my clients love that metaphor. And when they have this in mind, they really take better actions. They really take better decisions. Their narrative, in fact, changes from desperate vendors to sought after experts. All right, I hope this helps, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.